what you want, what you want. This is NitroBex, and today we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to be rebuilding the Drunker rebuildable tank. Now, I've already completely disassembled it, but let's go over the parts real quick. You have your top cap. All it does is hold a drip tip, okay? Underneath your top cap, you have your center ring. Yours doesn't quite look like that because I've actually all the way disassembled it. So you're seeing this in reverse from the breakdown. Inside the center cap on the top is going to be a little plastic ceramic insulator. You're going to have a little rubber insulator in your bottom piece, and then your positive post, okay? And then you have your tank. It doesn't come apart any further than that. This doesn't unscrew. It's just, unfortunately, a plastic tank with a post going up it, much like a Vivinova. Then you also have your burnt out wick and wire. Okay, wire's a bit hard to see, but it's here and it's burnt to hell. It's ready for replacing. So, I'm going to move everything off to the side so I can have a nice clean work area. Be very careful not to lose any of these parts. What we're going to start with is the old wick and wire. Okay, we're going to get our silica out, and this is just a bag of 3mm silica rope. And if you're looking for a way to cut, fingernail clippers work pretty nice. Okay, so I'm getting my silica out so I can start a piece of it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to gauge how long this is. Okay, I'm going to wrap it over, take my fingernail clippers and snip it. Okay, so we wind up with, and I went a little longer, and you'll see why in a minute, a piece that's a little longer than the original. Okay, I'm going to put my silica wick away. We're done with that for now. Okay, and we're going to come back to this piece I just cut. Make sure it's folded nice in half, and then snip it in half again. Take your old wick, throw it away. Okay, so we got our wick. That leaves us with wire. I'm using 32 gauge Canthal from the factory. It came with 4 wraps. That generally works for me, so I'm going to do the same. Okay. Again, I'm just winding off some Canthal, and make sure you get it straight, otherwise you're going to have problems with it breaking and binding. Okay, and I'm going to go a little longer than the original and take my handy dandy fingernail clippers and snip and put the Canthal away. Now I'm going to take the old wire, move it aside. Okay, so we got our wick, we got our wire. Now I need steady hands, so I'm going to have a vape. This is Honey Boo Boo's Bounty. I'll be doing a review on it later. So we got our wick there. Now I'm going to grab the little insulator. I can't make the coil any larger than between there. Otherwise it won't fit down in there. So I set that out in front of me so I can keep an eye on it. Find the midpoint. Leave a good length of wire, and then I pinch it. You control this all with your thumb. Wrap it around. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I've intentionally made this touch so I can show you how to fix your coil. Okay, and let me get this all adjusted. Now if you're looking there on the back, if you can see it, my wires are touching, which would short out and be bad. So I use a little screwdriver. You can use a paper clip, scratch awl, a drill bit. I've seen all kinds of different things used. But when you're done, ultimately you should have a nice tight wrap around there with no wires touching each other, okay? And the coil should be able to slide, okay? So I got this one pretty good there now. The next step is to thread the wire through the little holes in the bottom of the insulator. You're going to have a short lead and a long lead. Start with the shorter lead. Okay, got that lined up. Got that lined up. Now it's just making it go in the holes. Okay, and you can see the wire coming out there. And gently pull this down. Okay, making sure none of your coils are touching. Simply slide the silica wick in and get her nice and tight. Okay, so we got the center section built. Okay, so now I'm going to grab that center cap, okay, and slide her on down there, making sure that these are close together, and you're trying not to bend them too much. You just want them to go straight down through that center hole and out the bottom. We'll be dealing with those a bit more in a second once I can get it down there. Okay, so I got it fit in there, and I got it down in the bottom, the two wires coming out. We're going to leave that be until we can get the wick through the holes. Now you might need to push them through with something. I'm going to use my little screwdriver again and try not to bend those wires. So I'm just pushing the silica through. Okay. Got the silica strands coming through. And they don't want to cooperate, so I'm going to use a little trick here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dunk each end in just a little bit of pure grain alcohol. I'm not getting it up near the coil. I'm just getting the silica wet, so it's a little easier to work with. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing, just push them through. And I am using a mighty big wick for this, so that's why I'm having such a hard time. I do like 3mm silica, so that's a bit of a problem I'm having. If you're using a 2.5, you're not going to be having as much of an issue as I am right now. We're going to pause here, and then I'll come back once I have the wires through. Or the wick through. All you're watching me do right now is thread a needle, quite literally. Okay, a little bit of playing with silica later. We got the 4 strands down here with our 2 wires. Okay, now what we're going to do is pinch the 4 strands out of the way. We're going to pull 1 wire all the way over to this side, 1 wire all the way over to this side. Okay. We're going to take our little silica nub and thread it on one of the wires. Okay. And then push it up in there. Okay. I'm going to take the screwdriver, wedge it in here a little. We want that little rubber nub to insulate our positive from our negative. Okay. We got that seated pretty good. Now we're going to take our positive pin and simply just shove her up in the middle. Push her in real good. Boom. Okay. So here's what we got. We're rebuilt. All we gotta do is trim up. So I'm gonna take my toenail clippers, snip off this as close as I can get it. Snip off this as close as I can get it. Okay. So now we gotta feed this into the tank, and if you look, we cut it a little too long, so we're going to go back and snip the ends. So I'm just going to line it up real quick. I need to take off about yay much. So there we go. I'm going to thread this down into the tank. Just like so. Okay. Take my last vape and grab a bottle of VG or PG. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Pro Very. Clean out the inside here real quick, just out of habit. Okay, and put the drunker on top of the Pro Very. Since I know it's going to fire, I'm going to put a drop of just VG straight on the top here. Going to fire up in the Pro Very. Power up, power down, power on, check battery, atomizer ohms. 1.7, 2.2. Right where I want it to be. It's not reading any faults. I'm going to look at it now. So I'm going to blow gently over the coils and hit the fire button. Producing vapor just fine. Let's fill her up and see how she vapes. This does only come with a plastic tank, so I'm running MacLeod RYJ4 in here, or RYW4, which I know doesn't have a problem with plastic tanks. Just filling her up. Leave a little room at the top. Put away the VG. Would help if I put the right cap on the right thing. I'll have to clean that out with alcohol. I don't want to contaminate my VG. Okay. So, put your wicks down beside the center post. Screw her down. Okay. If you got a little excess there, wipe it off. Okay, now I'm going to hold it upside down for a second to get that juice start going, and you're going to see air bubbles go up. That's fine. I'm looking for the wicks to go clear, and they're working on it. Okay, so you still can see the wicks there. I like a really nice heavy wick, so you still can see them, but you can see they're getting much more translucent. Okay, now I'm going to take my juice, one drop right down on the coil, one on this strand of wick to get her started, one on this strand of wick just to get it started. I could equally just let it set for a little bit of time, but you want to see how it vapes now. Screw on the top. I'm going to fire this one on ProVary. Having a good device that has safety features, always nice when you're building your own coils. That or being able to read a multimeter really well. Okay, so we got this assembled. I'm going to throw a drip tip on it. We'll see how she vapes. Exactly what I would come to expect. Feeds very nicely. Doesn't leak. You'll catch me doing this, especially when it's new or the tank's low. It helps it feed just a little bit. Performing just like I expected. Let's take this off and have a look under the hood. Okay, coming back down to the desk. Let's make sure I haven't lost anything on there. Atomizer ohms. Still showing 2.2. Working just like it should. Hope this helped you get a little more confident about rebuilding your own atomizers.